What's up, everybody? Got a lot of topics, man. Had a great weekend. Hopefully, everybody else had a great weekend. I just found out that there's a new variant of coronavirus. It's called the Dougie
Yeah.
variant. The
Yeah.
Doug Almeida variant. There's
Yeah.
Omicron. It's only people, or what are you, Spanish people get it, I think. Slight built,
Hey,
they get it.
how dare you, Mark? Yes, I have now been infected for the second time with COVID,
You're a walking
and
disease.
but you know what? I am. I want. I can tell you this, that even the doctor, when I got the results today, he goes, "Yeah, you're healthy, thank goodness. You're already probably been the 5 days because I already found out 5 days after." And he's like, "Yeah, you'll be good. This is like getting a booster shot." He's
Yeah.
like, I'm like, I got more antibodies now, so I'm good to go. So I'm happy I actually
You
caught
have
the Omicron.
plenty
Thank
of
you, Omicron.
antibodies. Hey,
Yeah,
listen, man. I believe you can go through anything now after getting this so many times.
yes, I think so. How was your Christmas weekend?
I had a great weekend, but I had a very interesting. Yesterday was very interesting for me. And listen, I'm not, hypochondriac, and I don't worry about every little thing with COVID-19. I get it; it's real, but I don't freak out over it. You got to live your life, and that's how I feel about my life. If somebody sneezes, I don't really lose my mind unless they sneeze on me. So I was at a restaurant. We'll call it Sicilian Oven, just if you want to mention the name.
Yeah.
On Fort Lauderdale. So I'm actually sitting at the bar, and I'm already in a shitty mood because they don't have the game on. I'm like, how do you not have the Miami Dolphin game? You live in Florida. And I ordered a nice dish. It was delicious. The first two bites were amazing. I had a gnocchi, a truffle gnocchi, very good food. And the lady sneezed. And listen, you could sneeze by accident one time. Turned her head. I don't know why she didn't sneeze on her friend. Sneeze on your friend. Don't sneeze on me. She sneezed on me one time, and a dirty look, very dirty look. The second one was more open. The first one, was at least trying. There was some hands in front of the face, like three fingers. The second one was like she just missed her whole mouth, And I just seen like sneeze shit fly everywhere. It went all over everywhere. Yeah. And I was honestly, Doug, I'm not lying to you. If that lady was a man, he would have got knocked out. He would have got knocked out.
Yeah.
I was so pissed off. I threw my dish. I threw it, and I'm like, you sneezed on me, And she just looked at me like I was nuts, And they came over like, is there a problem? I'm like, not really. I said, she sneezed on me twice. She goes, would you like me to get me another dish? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. I think so. Yeah. Sure.
I'd like just less. I'd like a little more Parmesan and less mucus. Thank you.
Yeah. And then she tried to explain to me that, she doesn't know any better. She's from another country. In another country, if you sneeze on somebody, is that like a delicacy? Does that mean the meal was good? It's like, I don't get, from another, I think it's universal, especially with COVID.
Yeah.
You don't sneeze on people, Yeah. Without COVID.
From that country, it's also good to pick your nose before you shake your hand. There you go. Nice to meet you.
Exactly. So, that was pretty interesting. And, I had a big ordeal. They put the food on. They charged me for the sneeze meal. I had to get a manager. It was a whole nightmare, man. So, what are you gonna do?
So they asked you for a new meal, but they didn't take off the snot-ridden meal.
That's the funny thing about it, Doug. If a manager comes up to you and says, "Would you like something else?" What would you think? If you like something else, means we're going to give you the new item for free. Not for free. We'll charge you for the new item. We'll take off the sneeze item. Okay, and this is after 2 bites. It wasn't like I was one of those guys that had like 1 bite left. I'm like, she sneezed on it. I'm done. It was like 2 bites. Exactly. It was like 2 bites in. I was already starving. And I had sneeze all over my arm. So it was like I was already, I had someone sneeze on me. I didn't even want to eat anymore. So I actually had it to go. So he got me the meal to go. And what's funny about this, Doug? Every time I go to the bank or somewhere, the minute you walk to the bank, this lady with like a napkin and she cleans everything down. It's like you're standing there. Like, they didn't even clean it. The lady sneezed on me twice. They never even cleaned it down. I'm like, that's the time you get a napkin and clean it down, So make a long story short, the bill did come and they did charge me. And we had a couple of words, and next thing you know, he goes, oh, maybe I should take it off. I'm like, yeah, I think you should.
Yeah, that would have been good. Unless you wanted to go in the plate and try to take each little droplet of snot off.
Exactly.
I was done oven. I like Sicilian. I love their chicken Reggiano pizza. It's like chicken parm pizza. It's delicious.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you something. The food doesn't get sneezed on. It's excellent. They have excellent food.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get, so with the woman, I hate when people do that, right? Like I was at a Heat game, Miami Heat game, and this kid behind me, little kid, sitting behind me, is like kicking and shit and and he's sneezing. And all of a sudden, like I was getting annoyed, and he kept sneezing at you. And then he sneezed, and I felt something hit the back of my head. And I
It's the
turned
worst
around. I
feeling.
looked at. I turned around and looked at the dad. I go, you know what? I've been putting up with your kid. If one more thing happens, I'm gonna fucking punch you in the face because I can't
Yeah.
punch your kid. And the guy was like, oh, I said,
And
take
you
care of your kid.
exactly, and you feel violated. You feel like Jodie Foster and the
Yeah.
accused. You actually feel
Well,
violated. No, you
maybe
really
not
do.
as bad.
Well, yeah, I think it's just as bad, bro. But you
I mean,
feel like
somebody sneezing
respect.
in the back of my head's not being anally raped. I think there's a big difference.
I
But
felt like
you're
anally
right.
raped. Yeah. I did feel
Yeah,
anally raped, and not that I've been anally raped before, but I did. If I can
yeah,
imagine
would
what
you
anally
tell?
rape feels like, and I felt like I was
Yeah,
anally raped. It was,
yeah,
And
yeah.
but make a long story short, that was kind of a nightmare, and I'll tell you another
Mm,
nightmare. We'll get right into the stories.
yeah,
Our president, we all know, is a nightmare. Our president is a nightmare, and which I thought was kind of funny is he got punked. I mean, there was no Austin
yeah.
Kutcher, but he got punked, man. And you could see his wife's face. His wife was, she was like, again, are we doing this again? And I thought it was a great conversation. They were having a lovely conversation. And at the end, he said, let's go, Brandon. And you know what? The president had a chance to say, you know what, enough of that nonsense. He had his chance. If he was cognizant and knew what was going on, he could have stopped
Yeah.
it right there and said, you know what, in front of America, and said, you know what, enough of that nonsense. Okay, enough. I'm doing the best
So
job
let's
I can.
so let's take a look at this. Right, we got the video. So again, this was like a Santa NORAD call, like for parents and kids to call the president and the first lady to find out what Santa's doing and all this kind of stuff. And if you haven't seen the video, watch this.
Granddaughter. Can't bring her granddaughter. Well,
And how about Penelope?
Well, Penelope, she's only 2, so I think she'd be happy
Oh,
with just about it.
oh, that's great.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful that you have a 2-year-old.
Well,
Well, have a Merry Christmas. Have a wonderful Christmas.
and by the
So-
way, you guys have to be in bed by 9 o'clock, and asleep between 9 and 12, or he doesn't show up.
Don't tell me
This
what to
isn't
do. You're not
you,
my dad.
Jared. This is to the kids.
That's right.
Look how empty that soul is.
I hope you have a wonderful
Hey,
Christmas.
well- Yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas as well.
Oh,
Merry
thank you.
Christmas, and let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree. Hey, by the way, are you in Oregon?
I agree. You know
Yeah, I
what's so
agree.
funny, Doug? You know what's so funny? It's all over America. He has to hear it. It's not like he doesn't know what's going on. They tell him every
Yeah.
day. He goes and he walks out of that White House. They scream, "Let's go, Brandon!" to him 24/7. Here was his
Yeah.
time to shine. Donald Trump what would Donald Trump have done? Donald Trump, yeah, okay, let's go, Brandon. Yeah, you're an idiot. Next. This guy,
Yeah.
he took it on the chin, but he doesn't even know he took it on the chin. That's
Yeah.
the worst part. He has no idea he took it on the chin. And now
Yeah.
they're going after this guy. This guy's a hero. This guy is a hero,
Yeah.
bro. It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, you know what? It was great, right? I mean, because now people are like, you're right. The people are going after this guy, death threats and stuff like that, and all, and they're saying he used the F-bomb in front of the kids on a Santa call. No, he never said it. He said, "Let's go, Brandon." You know what I mean? That's all he said, for God's sakes. That's all it is.
He said nothing wrong. It was a joke. And if you had a sense of humor, but here's the worst part, Doug. We have transgenders stripping in kindergarten classes.
Yeah.
No, we're worried about let's go. When it's their narrative, it's wrong. Like Baby It's Cold Outside is a rape song, but Cardi B saying, stick it in my ass, stick it in my ass. That's not, that's okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I don't know
that's
if those are the
double
actual
standard.
lyrics. I don't know if those are the actual lyrics of Cardi B.
Those are
song.
basic lyrics for rap music. Those are basic lyrics
Yeah.
for rap music.
Stick it in
But
my ass.
But that's what I'm
tune.
saying, Doug. It's the narrative. It's the narrative where,
Yeah.
like we said,
You're,
Kathy
you're,
Griffin
you're
had Trump's head on a, and no one had a problem with that. That wasn't let's
No,
go,
no.
Brandon.
You-
Really
you-
had.
You're right. You're right. You're right, Mark. It's funny to think that there's a liberal parent going, "I can't believe my kids are hearing this. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon." Johnny, go get that book that transgender gave you to read about how some people don't think they're boys and some people don't think they're. Go read that. You can't listen to this.
Get out of here.
Oh,
Yes.
God.
Yeah. It's
Go-
insane.
Go do
No,
that
it's-
homework the tranny gave you.
But you
Sorry,
know
did I
what?
say
If it doesn't fit the narrative, that's how it always is, man. If they would have said
Yeah.
this to Trump, everybody would be laughing. CNN would be laughing about this, and Trump would be laughing about it. That's the funny
Yeah.
thing about it. He didn't care. Biden didn't. Here's the worst part. Biden did not know he was punked. He was.
Yeah.
He had no idea. His wife probably told him, "You know, you were punked." He has no
Well,
idea.
I wonder if he did because then he wanted to know where the guy lived because he wanted to send the DOJ after him. Because like you're in Oregon, right? Want to send the FBI to come see you.
He has no clue.
What a
When I
jerk.
tell you he has no clue, he has no clue. You can just look at him. He's an empty suit. He really has no idea where he's at. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's actually
He's a mess.
it's sad for us. It's more sad for us.
Yeah. Well, how about
And
the driver, right? The guy who this
yeah,
all started.
Brandon Brown. And the funny thing about it is Brandon Brown, he happens to be a pretty good racer. I mean, that's why they had the interview because he won a race. So it's not like he's the other idiot that said he was hung by a noose with Bubba Wallace, whatever his name, that said that there was Bubba Watson. They said that they had a noose in the garage and they found that it was a garage door pulley. He wasn't a very good race car driver. This guy is a good race car driver, and he's having trouble getting sponsorships. He didn't even do anything wrong. If anything, he did nothing wrong. What did he do? He was just nothing. He didn't even acknowledge it.
That's the craziest story I've heard. Why the fuck? Why would anybody not give this guy sponsorship? Where obviously there's a lot of attention to him. Number one, number two, what is it? What does he have to? He has nothing to do with this. And people are like, oh, I don't want to give this guy. It is just. It was just. Listen, it's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? How things are just happening and the way things are working. Oh, we don't want to give this guy money. You should. This guy's. People are going to be wondering now watching the guy. Unbelievable circumstances. Just.
Hey, when it's against their narrative, we've talked about this many times, Doug. When it's against their narrative, all bets are off, dude. It's like, it's ridiculous. Like you said, when you think about both sides of the coin, it's ridiculous. If this went the other way against Trump, America would be cheering, well, at least half of America. Like we said, conservatives don't give a shit either way. Like this doesn't change my life. The let's go branding. I think it's funny. I think it's really funny. I think it's worldwide. It's not even in the United States. It's worldwide. I mean, these chants are worldwide. It's, and for Biden not to acknowledge this is insane that he had no idea. He had literally no idea that he was being punked. He hears it every day. Every time he goes to a rally, every time he goes anywhere, they scream, let's go Brandon. I wear a shirt that says that. Everybody wears shirts that say it. It's crazy.
It is. What are you going to do? Well, at least in this country, you can do such things, right? You can, as a person, you can go, let's go, Brandon. When you're talking to the president, this is something that obviously you can't do in China. And, I thought this is interesting. China now has a social credit system, ranking system. Like, in other words, if you get in a way of like saying something online or something like that, they can actually make sure your internet sucks in your house. You know what I mean? If you're like talking down on the government and everything, they can actually affect your heater. Like they can affect your house. They can affect the school. Oh, your kid didn't get into that school. Why not?
We're not too far behind, Doug. We're not too far behind.
Exactly.
Doug, we got our shit taken down all the time, bro. If we mention we know we're going to get taken down the first time we talk about Biden. If we have a podcast where we don't talk about Biden, it goes on with no problems. The minute that we talk, we have the same problem in the United States, and it's getting worse. We're very close to that level right now.
I saw a great video of misinformation somebody posted about this is what misinformation looks like, and you have the lady who runs the CDC. You have Biden, you have all these people saying, get the vaccine. You don't have to worry about, you'll never get COVID again. And, all bullshit, and then somebody writes something on Facebook about just mentions the word COVID, and their stuff gets pulled down because it's misinformation. Meanwhile, the people that you're looking for information are misinforming us. You know what I mean? I mean, come on. Like the doctor, when I took the test and everyone was there, they're like, yeah, you got to go. I'm like, and like, well, thank goodness you had natural immunity because if you caught it, there's a good chance you could have got sick from this thing. I'm like, well, good. I'm just glad you recognize natural immunity. You know what I mean? As opposed to this divisiveness like about the unvaccinated.
You're like a superhero. Nothing's going to affect you anymore.
Listen,
COVID,
I am the healthiest person in the room right now. Okay. Right now, I'm the healthiest guy in the room. My antibodies are ready to kick some ass.
That's funny.
So thank God we're not in China. They can actually delay the flights banned.
That's crazy.
you can, if they think you're untrustworthy, they could, I mean, that's scary shit, man. But you know what? Hey, we're all going to be Chinese pretty soon. I hope you're all learning your Mandarin or Cantonese.
Yep. And like I said, we're not too far from that now. We're telling this story and we're like, oh my God, it's crazy that people could be swimming to Cuba from Florida pretty soon. I mean, that's how bad this country is getting, man. It's getting, I mean, DeSantis is going to try and save that. But let me tell you something. Freedom of speech is not freedom of speech anymore, anywhere. If you have an opinion, like guy just said, "Let's go, Brandon." He's having all kinds of problems just from that.
Yeah, and that is nuts. That would be funny to see people swimming back to Cuba.
I got to get the fuck out of here.
Hey, honey,
Oh,
don't throw that kayak out yet. I may need it.
exactly. Oh, what are you gonna do, man? That's crazy because, like you said, we're not too far off, man. We got to change things real quick, man. Things have to change.
Well, you know what? I mentioned our leaders, Dr. Fauci.
Well, you
One
said
of the things
leader. You mentioned his name. He's not a leader.
Well, I mentioned in the leading the fight against COVID. Those are the people that we're looking for advice and stuff.
Yeah.
He was quoted as saying something very scary that pretty soon he was suggested that vaccine mandates for domestic flights, domestic air travel could be a great idea. Which that means you cannot get on a plane unless you choose to take the vaccine. Which I don't think that's going to happen. And I'll tell you this right now: if it does,
won't happen.
If it does, I will take my AR-15 and stand outside my porch and claim the civil war or the revolution has begun.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of shit I can't do right now. I can't go to New York and work at a club. There's certain clubs I can't go work at certain clubs in Vegas because I don't have a vaccine, and I'm not just going to get it to do that. I'm going to get it if I need it. If it's somebody doctor says you need it. Now that I just got the Omicron, I don't need it. I'm definitely not going to get vaccinated now for another year.
And the Omicron is equivalent to a stub toe. I mean, it's like no one really gets hurt. No one really gets sick. It's not, it's not like, COVID-19. I think we've had one confirmed death. So, we shouldn't overly panic just yet. And I think we should still have our freedoms. I wouldn't lose it just yet. And all of a sudden, no one's getting sick from anything else but Omicron. The flu doesn't exist anymore. Nothing exists but this Omicron exists. And that's it,
Right.
So
one of my good friend Steve McGrew wrote, he goes, so let me get this straight. We have to take a test to see if we're sick. Right. Then we have to wait for the results to see if we're sick. And then if we do get a test result that we are, we have to stay inside and not do anything. I mean, just nuts, just fucking nuts.
It's nuts, man. It is crazy, but there's nothing you can do about it. I'll tell you what's crazy is, I got to give this lady a little bit of credit. The swimming officials resigned over that trans swimmer that we talked about. And you know what? Good for her, man. Kudos for her. She looks like a bleeding heart liberal. I mean, I don't normally judge bleeding heart liberals, but if I had to judge one, that would look like one to me. But I think, you know what? I got to give her some credit. I really liked what she did. She didn't like what was going on. She thought it was unfair, and she stepped down. And you know what? We need more people like that. Hopefully she'll find another job doing something. But, she's seen it was wrong and it's not fair. And she did something about it. You got to give her credit. Round of applause.
People are scared. People are scared to talk out against that, the woke progressive crowd. And I think that's going to just happen more and more because the ridiculousness, we had that show. We showed that guy. It was a guy. It was a guy with long hair, for God's sakes, beating the shit out of people from Pennsylvania swim team. And, and then, of course, it was funny, too, because the story that followed after that was a lot of the people on the girls on his team were like, no, we're not for this. This is bullshit. And eventually more and more people are going to say, fuck this. You know what I mean?
Everybody we need more people like her. Everybody needs to step up. Silence is the worst, man. More people need to step up and there has to be more consequences, but there's no reason for this, and everybody, I think more people agree about this than don't. I think more people agree than don't on this one.
Especially in this case. Listen, if it was somebody that transitioned when they were 10 or 12 or whatever, 13 or 14, you know what I mean? And now they're 20 and they're competing, at 19. Yeah. All right. That's probably, but in this case, it's, I mean, that dude should be ashamed. If anybody is
was he setting records? I'm sorry. Was he setting records as a man or did he have to go to be a female to set records?
No.
That's what I'm curious about. You know what I'm saying? Because you couldn't compete on your own.
When he was on the men's team, he was the towel boy. And then he says, I'm not going to be a towel boy anymore. I'm going to be a towel girl. And that was it. He changed his ways.
If Tom Brady decided to play flag football, he'd be pretty damn good.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know if you caught that feud between Elon Musk and Elizabeth Warren, which I love it. Number one, it was great because, Elon Musk is like, yeah, basically she's calling me a freeloader and a tax dodger. And he's like, He's going to pay $11 billion in taxes this year from selling his stock, which is going to, if
Most
so,
ever.
if
Most ever.
most any human beings ever paid and citizens ever paid in taxes, and this clueless wannabe career politician had the nerve to call him a freeloader when in fact she doesn't pay taxes. She's paid by us as a lifelong, and she's done nothing. If you take the accomplishments of Elon Musk and compare it to Pocahontas, listen, her accomplishments match her blood that's Indian. The same,
exactly.
the same. You could feel it. You know what I mean?
He's lied
And
about everything.
when is Elizabeth? When is anybody going to call her out? She always calls out the rich and demonizes. She went after Warren Buffett. She went after. I'm trying to remember the hedge fund manager guy I love. He's great to hear on CNBC. And they all give her. They all put her in her fucking place. But still, our government still has this fucking clueless, useless pile of shit as a congresswoman from Massachusetts. And Massachusetts. You would think people are smart in Massachusetts. Like, who the fuck elects this fucking? All she does is talk about, oh, well, there's none of it. She does nothing constructive.
No,
If she was an
nothing
ant, in a colony of ants, she'd be the ant that'd be going, hey, what is everybody doing? Hey, what is everybody doing? She's useless. And then to go up against Elon Musk, who's a complete antithesis to her when it comes to that kind of shit, and she got buried.
But
she's spending taxpayer dollars to get Facebook ads to go up against this fucking guy.
Yeah. But you know what? I love the way he handled it. He's like, she's irrelevant. Who cares? Because I heard him in a couple interviews and he's like laughing. He's like, she has no clue about anything. She's clueless. He goes, I pay more taxes than any human on this planet. And he goes, and I donate more than any human on this planet. He goes, she donates nothing. She's useless. He handled it very well. I kind of like the way he handled it because he's better than her. He is better than her. He's better than her. She's beneath him. And I think he's seen that, fuck her.
Yeah. Her days are numbered. And I don't mean that in a threatening way. I just mean in her term in office. Let's hope she's gone soon.
So Doug, let me ask you a question. What is going on with these people at airports? They're out of their fucking minds. Breastfeeding cat. Last week, they were breastfeeding a cat. Now, an ex-Baywatch. I used to watch Baywatch. I don't remember her, but she must have been like a nobody on the show. But Patricia Cornwell, she had an 80-year-old because he wasn't wearing his mask. He was eating. Who the fuck is she, first of all? Who is she to tell somebody to wear a mask or not? First of all, that's the job of the airlines. That's the first of all. Second of all, you're allowed to eat and wear a mask anyway. Everybody does it. And third of all, a fucking mask ain't gonna do anything anyway. You're on a plane, 100 people within 6 feet. Ain't gonna do shit. So it doesn't matter anyway. The mask is just bullshit on a plane. I'm telling you, Dr. Calamusa is telling you a mask
that's right.
Bullshit on a plane. Listen, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this one out.
Yeah. Calamusa, if you break it down, is Calm Ass USA. This lady was tripping hard. I guess she's pissed that she was Baywatch wasn't brought back. You watch the video, and first of all, you hope she's banned for life, forever flying.
She better be.
I mean, these people just need to. They need to be banned for life when these people do this shit on an airplane. Because listen, because of all this shit happening, I had to go start working out again. I started taking martial arts classes again. Not to get in shape, just because I have a bunch of flights coming up this year. I got to be ready. It's a fucking Baywatch.
What's going on? I got a flight next week. Oh, you're a rep doing 50. I got a flight. Rocky. He's got the Rocky team. I got a flight Delta this week. Hey, dude, it's fucking crazy. Everybody's too uptight.
Now you didn't punch the lady for sneezing all over you. Well, what would you have done if that woman was doing that to you?
There's something about me how I was raised, and I can tell you funny stories. I've had girls hit me before, and I can't physically hit a girl, even if she's doing something. I mean, if she has a knife or a gun, I can beat the shit out of her, but I can't physically hurt a woman unless I'm really a threat, which I don't feel a threat with a woman. I'm not being sexist, but I'm a man and I don't really feel a threat unless it's an MMA fighter.
I don't want to be sexist, but I'm a man.
No, I
don't want to be sexist about the weakness of females because I'm a fucking man. I can't.
You're not weak. We talked about this with the trans swimmer.
I know.
We were built differently. We're built differently. It's nothing to do with a man or a woman. It has to do with built differently. You know what I'm saying? A dog's not afraid of a rabbit. I mean, we're just two different species. We really are. So that being said, Man, she was screaming at me like, "Bitch, get away from me!" I might have choked her. She might have got choked. If she been like maybe a little bit like fingers, like a little choking going on, I might have choked her.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
may have gotten that little push away where you stick the two fingers into the
yeah,
throat line where you just push,
yeah.
next thing you know that,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean
Yes,
to
I still have to do
slip
your
you.
hair. But I'll tell you what, my dad's not a frail man. My dad's probably stronger than I am. But if it was with somebody that was frail that was in my family and did that, we would have a lot of issues. We would have some issues with that. And the funny thing about it is, who the fuck does she think she is? And the fact that they took so long to get her off the plane, she should have been off that plane in 2 seconds. Oh, 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. Just ridiculous. If somebody starts telling me, hey, put your mask on when you're eating this and that. And then if it got down to that, like if a dude did that, if a guy got in my face, I'd say,
Oh,
listen, I need to fly. But if a guy did that, first of all, if a guy did that, again, if you're sitting there in a chair and a guy hits you in the face, I'm choking him to death. I'm not going to punch him. I'm going to jump on him and just choke the shit out of him.
yeah.
Enough's enough. People need to learn.
Yeah.
It's everybody wants to be respected. Don't say this, don't say that, don't say that. But then the same people will jump in your face and tread on your area, and it's just hypocrisy. That's
But
just
this
nuts.
conversation went on way too long. I mean, she
Mm.
was belligerent and everything, and I just don't know why it took so long to get her off the plane. It shouldn't have got to that far. When someone's belligerent right away, there should be something right
I,
away
lo-
to get them.
I love the way the guy was like, "Shut up, bitch." He dropped the bitch right away.
Karen,
That's
like,
really
oh, Karen. He goes, "Shut up,
yeah.
Karen."
Shut up, you Karen bitch, you fucker.
That's like the worst thing you could call a woman is Karen. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I love that they came up with
Well,
that name. It's just like a regular name. She's a Karen.
yeah.
Poor people named Karen. A poor person that's actually named Karen. They had that. It's like saying that he's a Doug. You'd be pissed off if that was your
Yeah.
name, and
Yeah, that'd
Doug
be a
meant
really bad
something.
name to use. I
Exactly.
bet. Yeah, you're right. I bet you a bunch of Karens gone changing my name to Susan.
But
I don't need to be called Karen.
I've met a
Uh,
couple of Karens, and most Karens are kind of like that. So I've met like 3 Karens. They're kind of like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, this was a funny story. In California, an education official resigns for violating the state policy because you actually have to live in California if you want to be a part of their fucking education system. Where she live? Hey, why couldn't you make it to the meeting? In Texas. That's
I
why I
gotta
live
fly
in
there.
Texas. Yeah.
But why would you want to live in Texas and go to California anyway? I mean, unless you get paid a lot of money, I wouldn't even want to be in California. Why would you know what I'm saying? It doesn't even make sense.
Well, I'm sure this is a situation where she probably has like an address, she's
Oh
using in California for the part, and
yeah.
but she's actually staying in California, which, that's not a good thing when the people that are supposed to help the community and the education system in that neighborhood and that community doesn't even live there. Like, fuck, I'm out of here. I
Even
don't wanna
people in
fucking be
California
here.
don't want to live in California. They're like, yeah, I'll
No.
help you out, but I don't want to live there. I don't want to deal with Pelosi. I'll live in another state, but I'll help you out.
You got to wonder what's going to happen. What is it going to take, right? For otherwise, because it'd be really sad to watch California really. I mean, it's kind of not sad. It is. I mean, I have a lot of friends there, and I mean, the movie industry, the comedy clubs. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't give a shit. But you know what I mean? It's like it's scary, that how bad it's getting, and you wonder, like, is it going to change? People
California
that
and New
live there,
York.
like, oh, it'll come back, it'll come back. Like New York has come back a bit. New York's got in comparison to
New York's
California.
still bad. New York's still bad.
Yeah, but you know what
But
I mean. But it's not
it's
as
the lax
hopeless.
laws. It's the lax laws. It's the liberal ideology. The liberal ideology is the reason why it's fucked up, man. It was never this. I used to live in California, Doug. I lived in San Diego. It wasn't that bad when I lived there. It was many moons ago, but it wasn't that bad. But it's this
Mhm.
liberal ideology. It's these dinosaurs that we have in still in office that have these dinosaur policies and just the woke culture and everything. And it's the lackadaisical shoplifting. I mean, you're allowed to steal anything under $900. So what kind of fucking law is that? Oh, it's $8.99.
Yeah.
Don't let them go.
Well, it's a sanctuary. It's a sanctuary state, not just a sanctuary
Yeah.
city. And you're right. I remember was it several years ago they wanted to secede from the country because they had all the wealth. Like California is like the sixth most powerful like nation in the world when it comes to their GDP. And but now it's falling apart. It's
Oh, yeah.
it's deteriorating, and the technology sector is moving. And they may want to be careful what they wish for because they may secede in the United States, but say, you know what, you're going to become your own
It's
shitbox.
and it's not even the number one producing state anymore. Now it's for movies. Now it's Georgia, actually. So it's not even what it was famous for. It's losing that because people don't want to film movies there. A lot of people don't want to live there. They just don't. I mean, and it's so strict. It's so strict. You can't do the mask mandates, and we talked about it.
Yeah, horrible.
Well, we're talking about horrible. I want to talk about this story first because this really, really bothers me, with all the bullshit that's going on in the world. This poor woman, Kim Potter, and I say poor woman because this wasn't a racism thing. This was a mistake. It was a bad mistake, but it was a mistake, okay? It was a mistake. She didn't mean to kill this guy. And to throw a 20-year sentence, a sentence that you would give to a mass murderer, a Charles Manson, someone that is a killer, a rapist, a pedophile, to get that kind of sentence for accidentally shooting somebody that was a criminal, and if he was listening, and he didn't deserve to get shot, so I'm not going to get into a big thing like that. But if he was listening, he wouldn't have been shot. And we've talked about these stories before. He didn't deserve to die. Okay, I'll give him that. Okay, but she didn't mean to kill him. Okay, then if she gets 20 years, Alec Baldwin gets 40 years. Okay, same shit. Okay, so this is ridiculous, and I think the judge in both cases where the guy got 110 years for the driving the truck that killed 4 people, where his brakes went out, where he wasn't drinking or driving, and this person, the judge should do time. The judge should be locked up. These are ridiculous cases.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a case that sets a precedent in that, it's because it should have been a civil case, because it's a mistake. It's a gross, wrongful death, all kinds of shit like that.
You get fired. You don't get 25 years.
Yeah, because there's no intent. How could you serve time for a mistake? Regardless of that. That's why it's a weird precedent. And
Doug,
the minute it happened.
For 26
years. The minute it happened, she went crying, and she was, she obviously didn't mean to do it. She was, so it's really weird, and to me, it's just a horrible. I just think this is one of those cases. This is like, hey, it's a balance. The jury said we got to convict her because we don't want to have riots, because there's going to be riots and shit.
But that's what America's about. A fair judicial system. Fuck the riots. Fuck that. Because you can't act up. Put those motherfuckers in jail. Put the motherfuckers rioting in jail. Don't put the person that accidentally killed somebody in jail. This has to stop, dude. This has to stop. This is ridiculous. It's not fair, and it's ridiculous. This actually fired me up, man. This one really fired me up because this woman was a police officer for 26 or 27 years. Never not one case of gross. And let me tell you something. Everybody's like, oh, she should have known better. How the fuck do you know? Do you carry a taser and a gun both? Do you have the adrenaline going on you when he's kicking and screaming where the fuck he's doing and not listening? Listen, women lift up cars when they have adrenaline, okay? You have so much adrenaline going on, you don't know what you're doing sometimes. She was wrong. She made a mistake.
Yeah, I definitely don't agree with anybody. I definitely don't agree with anybody questioning her decision process when they've never been in that type of situation themselves. That's crazy, but it's a sad story. I can only assume that she won't serve the 20. She'll end up probably getting out in 7 to 8 with good behavior.
Which is way too much time. Way too much time. This guy Henry Ruggs, who was driving 100 miles over the speed limit, had a loaded weapon in his car, was drunk as a skunk, who killed that person, won't do 2 years. Won't do 2 years.
Well, it's not his fault, Mark. It's the bottle of liquor's fault that forced it's hit down his throat, And he's of a certain race that, he has reasons for not making good decisions, because that's just the way it is. That's the history, and the sins of our country allow such things to happen, and that's crazy.
Our country not making a $9.2 million a year. The sins of our country. This country's been pretty damn good to everybody. Pretty damn good to everybody.
Yeah, some people are excused, and other people are here's the balance I always find weird. It's amazing to me that in certain cases people can just, oh, well, you have to feel bad, or you have to feel sorry or empathetic. But in another case, fuck that, drill her, send her to jail. She grabbed the. It's just that the how do you say that, the variance of understanding and tolerance for certain situations, like you said, it depends on the narrative.
I'll be honest with you, Doug. If this was a black police officer and this was the other way around, a white person was killed, he would
This
not.
wouldn't have been a case. This wouldn't have been. We wouldn't even heard about it if it was a black
This
officer.
happens all the time. This happens all the time. It happens all the
Yeah.
time. It does happen all the time. And you know what? That's why you listen and obey the law. If
You wouldn't
listen,
have heard
obey-
it. You wouldn't have heard anything if it was a white guy that got shot. If it was her and
Well-
she shot a white guy, no one would have heard about the story.
Well, here's
It
the
would-
reason why I say that, Doug. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but here's the reason why I say that. Keona Holly, okay, who was just killed, in her car, okay, by two African Americans. Not in the news. Nobody knows who she is. Not in the news at all, unless you watch small news or watch certain things on the news. It's not a big story. It's a black on black crime, and it's a police officer that was killed, that was ambushed. And you want to know something? Not a big story at all. And here's a person that did nothing wrong, just didn't mind their business. It was a black on black crime, and Black Lives Matter doesn't like those crimes. Those aren't that's not a good narrative. It's not a good story. It doesn't, it doesn't make the news. There's no dirty laundry in that.
Right. So the officer was black, and two black people ambushed her and killed her. It was a woman. Yeah.
Woman, yep. And barely made the news, man. Barely made the news, and she was killed minding her own business in her car. And it just won't make the story. It won't make the news, just like the other story of that's in the. You wouldn't even know about this because it's not even in the news, about the 5-year-old kid that was killed a couple of years ago. Little white kid riding his bike. And I'm not trying to make this thing a race thing. I'm really not. I'm just trying to make this an obvious thing. Okay. This little kid was minding his own business, a 5-year-old. Okay. And he came out and he shot the kid. He killed the kid. And you want to know something? It's barely in the news. It's not. And this is a racial thing. This is definitely a racial thing. You don't just go out and shoot a little white kid. It just doesn't happen. Okay. This was a racial thing, but nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. It's not an issue.
Well, here's the thing. It was a racial thing, and obviously in the guy who shot the kid's head, right? The difference is, you can't sit there and go, oh, now all black people, this is ridiculous. We got to start going. No, it's just this one individual that acted in a racist manner. So if there's a white cop that shoots that does something, and you find out that he had racial intent, then that's that case. This isn't a whole thing around the whole country. It's individualistic to that person, and that's why when you read a story about this guy Darius Sessions, you're like, all right, this guy's fucked up. Like the guy who drove through the Christmas parade. It was obviously a racial rant, but nobody spun it that way. Nobody wanted the news. They want to spin it that way. They didn't even mention what his race was. They didn't even they didn't even want to show his picture because he was black, because that's gonna but people go, soon you.
That's the point I'm getting at. That's the point I'm getting at. That's the point I'm getting at, is that we're making everything a white person does, a cop, especially a police officer, we're making race. This Potter was definitely not race. 100. She's been in the force almost 30 years. She's never been in trouble. You look at her, you can see the remorse in her eyes. She's not a criminal. You know what I'm saying? This is a woman that has regret for what had happened, and this is ridiculous. And I hope it gets overturned. We'll see.
Well, that'd be interesting. I'd feel bad for her, and they didn't even let her spend time with her family. They're like, no, go right to jail.
Yeah.
Too bad. You know what I mean? But listen, like I said, it's just this divisiveness. That's what the evil wants in this country. They want us to not like each other, trust each other, hold us apart from each other. And the only good thing to me is if you don't watch the news, you don't see it. When I hang out with my comic friends, we're all of all races, colors, creeds. We don't give a shit about any of this stuff. You know what I mean?
Most Americans don't. Most Americans don't.
For the most part, that's the way people are. We do our own thing, and then you watch this shit, and you're like, oh, But the problem is that when this happens, it does rally up the hoople heads. I said this when all that shit started happening with the Confederate statues. I'm like, what did you expect to happen? Did you expect the alt-right? Did you expect all these people? You just shake the carpet up. You just got them out of their holes. That's all you did. That's all you did by what? So you remove a statue. Now you want to get them all riled up and fucking start the aggravation and start this anger again.
Why start things up? Like you said, these statues have been around for 300 years. They're history.
Right.
Listen, history's history. There's bad history. There's good history. It's history. That's why they call it history. And you learn from history. There's no reason for it. This woke culture is ridiculous. And I think people want to be a part of something and it's
people,
you know what?
People need excuses, Mark. People need
Yeah.
excuses for everything. They, if you want to say that, listen, I get it. Somebody says, "What if, if you're Jewish, what if they put a Hitler statue in front of?" I'm like, well,
There's never
fucking,
been There's never been.
yeah,
We're putting new statues up. It's not like we're
yeah.
putting up the guy that killed Floyd. We're putting his statue up. We're not putting new statues up. Listen, these people that are up there, they've done great things too. The country, that was part of history. Listen, slavery was part of Africa more than it was part of the United States. Okay, so might as well take everything out of Africa too. Black people own slaves. Okay, so what I'm saying is we're not building new statues of people. If we built a new statue of Hitler, that would be a problem. But if you have a statue of Robert E. Lee and he did some great things and he did what was going on in the country back then. Slavery was the norm back then. Was it right? No. It wasn't right when it came out of Africa, and it's not right when it was in the United States. It wasn't right in both places. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Black people own slaves. White people
Yeah.
own slaves, and black people own slaves.
It was a horrible time, but it was a different time. You cannot use today's wisdom to judge the sins of decades, if not centuries ago.
No,
It's
no.
just the same. You wouldn't judge your actions when you were a 4-year-old with your wisdom today. You know what I mean? You can't expect to, and when you're a child, like even when you're an adolescent, you can't be expected to make the same decisions as you have as an adult, because that's what it is. And it's like, and the only thing you can do is explain it, right? You got to say, well, this is a fucked up time. And then people learn from it and we move on. Because if not, we keep reflecting back and making excuses for it. It's just never going to get better.
One more thing, Doug. And here's another thing real quick. If you wanted to pull one statue of something that was horrible, okay, we'll talk about it. You're pulling fucking all kinds of statues down. Christopher Columbus, what the fuck did he do? The tiger from Frosted Flakes, he says they're great. What's he talking about? Is he a white supremacist? I don't know. Aunt Jemima, who knows? It's like they've lost their mind, dude. Every little Red Riding Hood, the wolf, she ate the wolf. I don't fucking know. Everybody's lost their fucking mind. Everything's bothersome. Everything's so bothersome. Just enjoy.
All I could say is, everybody's got their own way of being respect. All I can tell you is the creed I follow is no object, no word can ever control me. So, you know what I mean? And I get it. Like I said, I always said, if I smell a certain cologne, it reminds me of an ex-girlfriend, that may put me in a bad mood for a little bit, but I'm not going to ask, the makers of Angel perfume to stop making it.
But what it really
reminds me of my ex-girlfriend.
If you smelt an egg, come on, Doug, you wouldn't give two fucks about what happened in your past. So, I mean, I know you're trying to do an analogy, but
I'm just trying to get along. I'm trying to relate. I don't,
Angel perfume.
you know what I mean? I mean, just fucking, be a man. Like we have solar flares. We have flooding. We have fucking people.
Disasters.
Let real shit to fucking worry about, okay? Toughen up, America. Toughen up, because it's not going to get any fucking easier. And if things say people do shit, and I can't believe I'm so fucking triggered. Listen, just throw yourself off a fucking cliff already. Get it over with,
Stop torturing us with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that our time has went by real quick today, man. Doug, what do you got going on? Talk to me.
I got a little time off.
Besides getting COVID every 2 days.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out. Yeah, I'm taking a little break. We're hoping that COVID doesn't cancel some of our shows in Florida. So there's some things. Just go to DougieAlmeida.com and get all my dates coming up. Going to be in Colorado Springs in March. I'm going to be doing all kinds of shit. I'm excited for a new year. And listen, I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to start 2022 with the most antibodies of anybody ready to go. So I'm excited for 2022, even though Nostradamus says an asteroid is probably going to hit us this next year. So that's the next big thing to look forward to.
The good news, if it hits California, nobody will know because it's a shithole anyway. They're like,
an asteroid hits California, breaks off, floats into the ocean. Nice.
Hey, you can't fuck up any more than it is now. Hey, everybody, man, just enjoy everything. Me, I'm buying stuff, selling stuff, having a great time, not worried about anything. Everything's okay. And that's it, man. That's it. That's our show.
Thanks, guys. Take care. And hey, I guess we'll be back next week.
Yeah.
All new year.
You got it, man.